there's a whole vast majority of, let's say, IT professionals who are very technically skilled, but somehow they're not the best. They've not been put through a program which is taught to how you can express yourself, how you can communicate, etc. And a lot of them have come and told me, that how do we sort of get ahead? What's your advice, for people like that who haven't come through the traditional business school, because that's a different model.
Yeah, my first submission, my humble submission would be, I actually think our business schools don't do a good job of teaching people how to communicate. What we do is teach them to make huge PowerPoint decks and cram them full of data. That's one kind of communication. I think effective communication at its core is storytelling. You are telling a story to someone. You're trying to leave them with something on their mind, either getting them to approve something, getting them to be excited about something, being clear on that, then being clear on what's the right tools and techniques you can use to communicate that story. Sometimes indeed it may be a highly analytical presentation. Sometimes it just may be a piece of paper. Sometimes it may be just talking to someone one-on-one. And I actually think communication is something we don't do a great job of teaching in business school. And as you mentioned, if the IT professionals who haven't been to business school, I'd say, look, you're not missing out on much in terms of learning communication. But the best way I've found of learning about communication is watch people in action. Watch people who are really good at communicating. So, and there are many people from diverse fields of life. So Steve Jobs was a master communicator. He was one of the best out there. And if you observe some of his presentations, he doesn't have huge facts and figures. He's not reading slides. He's just driving really compelling messaging, using impressive metaphors, making connections. And I think by watching people, by practicing, and I think a lot of it, I hate to sound like a broken record, but to me, the core of communication is, before you jump into the communication, do you know who your audience or stakeholders are? What are they? What's on their mind? What are you trying to get out of that piece of communication? So for me, communication is less in the delivery, more in the planning of how you're going to think about that particular interaction. So I actually think it's a big need gap today in corporate India of how we can get people to communicate effectively and honestly free up a lot of the time that goes into rituals of preparing big decks when they may or may not be needed.